Hey there, guys, and welcome to Charjr Ryuki's Reviews on Fire. Let's fire up this review. Today's review, or in other words, tonight's review, is about the Winchester house. I'm probably pointing the wrong way. There we go. Camera reverse. Or the Winchester horror movie. Um, starring Helen Mirren and Jason Clarke. Hopefully, I said that right. Um, the acting was uh really well. They played their roles like they're supposed to. Clark played Pierce, played a doctor, psychiatrist, and he was chosen by Helen, otherwise known as Sarah Winchester, and he goes down there to evaluate her mental health. And it was a bit of a awkward start. It was a bit of an awkward meetup. Um, but then he starts to see things. Like he starts to notice things. One, when he first arrived at the Winchester house, he was supposed to wait in the library and to wait for Mary. The wind blew in, knocked a bunch of papers, were also drawings of what to make the rooms as, and a cabinet was rattling. Well, curiosity set in. He went to go check and only got scared by a maid who was just cleaning the cabinet. And he would notice some strange things. It seems like in every scene, almost every single scene, there's a young man, kind of pale, and he just all seems to appear in the corner, just happens to be sitting there when no one was there before. And it's like the elder butler that he ends up talking to uh, acted as if he never noticed him standing there. He ends up seeing, I guess, in his room after taking laudanum, which was actually a poison way back then, and they used it to kind of to poison one mind to it just basically messed him up. It was never a cure for anything. It's not like in Amnesia: The Dark Descent where it was used to heal you. But in back then it was a poison. It was a drug basically in some circumstance. And the movie itself, it did not rely totally on the jump scares. It had the perfect atmosphere. The perfect atmosphere, and they had this moment where they just led to the jump scares. Like in Clark's Pierce's room, he after he took laudanum and he was talking to himself or doing some sort of, kind of in a process of cleaning himself up, getting himself ready for dinner. And the mirror in his room kept turning towards the chair behind him by the door. And he'd grab it and move it back, and then it would go back again. He'd do it one more time, and then after either right at the third time or when he grabbed the mirror again to move it, he moved it, and boom, jump scare. And then the mirror moved back, and then you see a man sitting in the chair holding either a pitchfork or a rifle. and the music kind of helped lead up to the jump scare, but wasn't really needed because of the atmosphere alone was enough to lead up to the jump scare. The curiosity, the weirdness, the strangeness of why these things keep moving on their own, and he also found, like, just like the people who kind of, like the lawyers of the Winchester company, were wondering because didn't really understand Sarah Winchester's behavior, and he didn't quite understand. He didn't quite believe in the whole thing about ghosts and shadows and this and that. Um, it's just this movie is really good for a horror film. It really is good. I mean, it is based off the Winchester house. It is based off of a true story that literally is a part of our history. And the Winchester house, to this day, is one of the most haunted mansions in America. It even got an episode of Ghost Adventures where the Ghost Adventures crew took part in it. And even they were, kind of, shocked by the feeling of the house. And it it's one of those things of how they played it out is like this guy who Clark plays as, he kind of has plays like a soldier syndrome where he relies on drugs. And he ends up like he doesn't really want to tell the truth of what is going on with him. And so basically Sarah tries to help him, and she brings up true events like, did you die? And he just stops. Did you die for 3 seconds? And this and that. Or did you leave your room at this certain time and seen what I did? And it's like, at first he was like, no, he was refusing it, to admitting the truth that he did do this. He did leave his room when he was basically told not to. And it's like, it's one of those things where you don't mean to pry, but in order for you to understand it, you could be a skeptic at something and say you don't believe it, but then you start to see things. Like things move on their own, or you start seeing someone who wasn't there before and they are there now. Or, and the thing is, like, also the camera, how the camera worked. You would cautiously walk down a corridor, walk down a hallway, and you'd just be trembling. You'll be shaking. It's like you don't know what's going to be coming around the corner. And you look behind you, there's nothing there, but you start hearing voices. And next thing you know, when you get to the end of the hallway, where it splits off one way to the other, to left and right, well, if this room's sealed off, what about the other room? And all those doors that were appeared to be shut open up. And it's just even and just going down there and just having, I mean, it is part because of my experience, because of my own personal experiences and what I know. entities that are shown in this movie do go after innocents, such as Henry. And it also, like, okay, this guy, this doctor, has his own problems. Sarah Winchester is fighting hers. And then you have Mary, and then you have Henry. They're each having their own battles to fight. And then you find out what really happened to him. He admits that he died. He admits that he died trying to protect someone. That, in other words, that he tried to help them, and then things just didn't end well. He is like a reenactment when he went to the garden room and made his way in, and then his late wife made herself appear to him. And like before in this dream, this thought that he had, that right at midnight, that this thing kept on playing back again. And then you find out what really happened. And then at that point, because it was at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, where it was at that crucial point where they're trying, like, they figured out who the bad guy, who the bad spirit was, and the other two that were with him, and they were going to do everything that they could to protect Henry and Mary, who were obviously at this point in danger in this movie. They played the roles perfectly in my eyes. This is one movie that will definitely give you the shivers. And even though, because they made it look like the entities destroyed the house, and that very well could be. It could have, that the entity itself could have grown just strong enough to basically destroy the house in order, and then have her rebuild it in the end, because still in the end, where her sanity was completely sound, that he totally believed her, and he relayed his findings to the lawyers of the Winchester company, proving that she is completely sound. There's no problems. Um, she takes his hand and tells him that his wife never stopped loving him, even after her death. And he's like, I know. And that's what's good, because they also bring up the fact that inanimate objects, or objects that were like a memory of your past, like with him, it was a bullet that took his life. He had it refurbished, and he had in the shell together forever. The very bullet that killed him. He ended up using it on the entity, Ben, to basically for him to rest in peace. And I like the bit of special effects that they had in that crucial moment, to where he had to believe in order to find the right one. The difference between reality and illusion. What is real, what is not. And I think they did a pretty good job portraying Sarah Winchester and what went on and what she did, why she did it in the Winchester house and its history and its ties to the Winchester rifle and the wars. And everything that happened all the way to 1922, where Sarah Winchester had passed away at that time. And it also brought up at the end that in 1906 there was one of the most devastating earthquakes. So with that bringing that up, that could have been that an earthquake could have happened at the exact same time, that they were using a dark entity and combating it, trying to bring this entity to peace so it'll move on, as another way of trying to cover up an earthquake, or using an earthquake to cover up paranormal activity. This movie caught my attention immediately as soon as I started watching it. It is really good. It does not take long at all, period, for things to start happening. Winchester gets a 9 out of 10. So I want to thank you guys for watching. It's time to cool down and look forward for the next episode. And I will see you guys there. Peace.